What's going on, everybody? So we just wrapped up watching the Miami Hurricanes spring game here at Drive Pink Stadium in Fort Lauderdale. In this video, I'm going to talk about standouts of the game, things to work on, definitely moving towards the off season, as well as just general takeaways as we wrap up spring officially. So let's get right into it. And I will definitely get into the offense, but I want to start with the defense today because I thought there were some guys that made some good plays throughout the day that they can really build on, because I think this defense does have a lot of question marks. So a couple of shout outs to three defensive backs who did well, and all the defensive backs did a good job of not allowing big plays downfield, either because they had tight coverage and man-to-man coverage or were protecting zone. Just didn't give a lot of space for the wide receivers, but they did not allow any big plays. So everybody should be commended in that secondary, but there are three guys in particular that stood out. James Williams at safety was one of those guys I talked about, if you watch this video, that I felt like needed to have a good game, and he came down with an interception off a tip pass, but he came down with it. I think that was good to see. It was the only interception of the day. Ja'Cory Brown threw that pass, and James came down with it. Once again, one of those guys in the secondary that did a good job of holding down things in the back end and not allowing big plays while coming down with the big play himself, though. So I thought he did a good job. And then these other two guys I felt like really needed to have a good performance, starting with cornerback Corey Couch. I thought Corey did a good job throughout the day, and he has said throughout the spring, look, he wants to forget about 21. He's moving ahead to this next season, and I think this was a great step in that direction, because not only did he provide good coverage downfield on the wide receivers, but he showed what he could do. He made this nice diving deflection over the middle of the field for a pass break up there, so that was good to see. But also, when Corey's at his best, he is in the backfield at times, and he did that. He tracked down this reverse by Brashard Smith. Corey was all over it and had that tackle there, 9-yard loss there on the play. So Corey just kind of had this all-around performance, and I think, for him and his confidence, whatever it might be, whatever happened last year, I think today is something he can really build on. And look, I think what you saw with Corey's performance is backing up what defensive coordinator Kevin Steele had to say in the spring, where he felt like he was pleasantly surprised with the play of the cornerbacks. Isaiah Dunson, who started out here today, was a guy that he was surprised with. But also, Corey Couch, he's got to be at least encouraged that there's something there with Corey moving forward. Corey's one of those guys that puts in a lot of time in the offseason. I'll be very curious to see how his workouts go in the offseason, as well as his progression, but certainly confidence-wise, this is definitely something he can build on because of his actual results, and I think he had a good performance today. Another defensive back is Gilbert Frierson, and he's a guy that worked out with the safeties and the defensive backs, but he's a guy that moves around a little bit in this defense, but it's certainly a lot different than what it was last year under the previous defense. But Gilbert, I thought, did a good job once again. One of those guys that was making plays, close to the line of scrimmage, which was good to see Gilbert have a day like this, because I think, Gilbert's one of these infectious guys that really brings a lot of energy. So when he's playing well, I think it really helps out the defense. And he's a guy that has a lot of experience. So you're hoping for really strong play out of Gilbert for this defense. And it was just good to see these three guys in particular, Jake Lichtenstein on the defensive line and Cyrus Moss with 3 sacks and a forced fumble in the game today. Those two guys played really well. There were times Leonard Taylor was in the backfield. So I think, the defense did a pretty good job. There were some moments for the defense. Certainly, the defense was not calling everything that they would like to call, or the offense. Everybody was kind of sitting back a little bit. So certainly, it's hard to gauge everything on that. But I just thought there were some guys that really stood out today, and I think it's something to build on moving forward. So let's go to the offense with Tyler Van Dyke at quarterback. I felt like he was the best quarterback on the day. Certainly, he missed on some throws. I definitely think they could have hit on some deep throws. That was disappointing that they weren't able to connect deep as an offense. But Tyler, pretty steady day, 20 of 33 for 175 and a touchdown to Jacoby George. So that was good. But, if you tack on a couple of those 30-yard catches, all of a sudden you're going from a solid or a good day to a really good day. So that's disappointing, but I do believe it's something that they can work on moving forward. But, overall, I thought Tyler was pretty good with his decision-making, although, once again, some of those throws were overthrown, just not great touch, which is a little surprising because he's been so good at that. And also, there were a couple drops in there as well. guys who did stand out. I think Xavier Restrepo had a good day, led the team with receptions with 6 for 60 yards, which also led the team. I thought he did a good job. He caught the first pass of the game. And then also he had this nice little 20-plus yarder as well sprinkled in. So able to catch the ball deep, get some good there, as well as these short passes, which he's been really good at. So overall, good performance by Xavier there. Other wide receivers, Jacoby George was a guy, everything was short with him, but he did get that touchdown, which was good to see, him capitalize inside the red zone there. From a running back standpoint, and this is where one of my surprises, first surprise that I'll mention, stood out. But let's start with Henry Parrish. He had 2 touchdowns today, a 2-yarder and a 1-yarder, nothing crazy, but he did a good job. He's a smaller back, but he did a good job of hitting that hole, and he essentially scored immediately, and it wasn't one of these things where it took him 3 or 4 downs from inside the 3 to get it in. So that was good that he punched it right in, did a good job there. It looked like he was banged up a little bit with a little bit of a rib injury, but he did come back, so that's a good sign. But I thought he showed this good burst. He had the longest run of the day, a 21-yarder off that right tackle, near the sideline there, and did a good job of turning the corner, getting upfield, and getting a big gain. And just my thoughts on the running game, in particular with Henry Parrish, and I know this might be a little bit of a surprise, but honestly, I think Jalen Knighton and Don Chaney Jr. have work to do to catch up to Henry. Henry's been more productive in college, while he was at Ole Miss, and he was out there all spring long, whereas those 2 guys were limited because of their injuries. So I think even though he's new to the program, and even though those other 2 guys were more highly regarded recruits, I think Henry's got a little bit of upper hand at this moment. It'll be very interesting to see how soon those other 2 backs can get to full speed. But right now, I think you've got to at least like what Henry's bringing to the table as they've got more capable backs than they did a year ago. Thad Franklin led the team in rushing today, but he averaged under 4 yards a carry. He did get in there with a score. And he did have this nice catch, which, that's not a strength of his, but he did get in that open field and caught a pass there for about 20 yards. So good to see from Thad. I think overall, pretty solid day from Thad, but nothing huge, but just solid. All right, 2 surprises on offense, starting with walk-on Davon Perry. If you were looking at the roster wondering who the heck number 46 is, it was not the guy that was listed, and I know this because I checked in way early in the spring on who number 46 was, just to be clear, because if you followed the channel, if you followed some of the things I've said about what's been going on with the drills at running back, Perry has stood out. And if you check the message boards on InsideTheU.com before the game, I said, look, there's a sleeper to watch for today who I think will have a good performance, and I said Davon Perry. Certainly he did that. A few 7-yard runs in there, good burst, former wide receiver who played at Richmond. I actually had a chance to catch up with Davon after the game. I know his family and he had some friends here, family was here, and they were certainly excited to see him do well, and I know he was excited too. So really good performance by him. There's always these kind of surprises. Will he make an impact on the offense during the season? Certainly hard to say, anything like that with his role, but for today, he was great, and I thought he did a good job, and he also got involved in the passing game too. So a little bit of surprise, but yes, 46 on the offense was Davon Perry, playing running back throughout the spring as he kind of transitioned from wide receiver there. And then the other surprise that, I definitely want to give credit to Khalil Brantley, Jaleel Skinner, and Elijah Arroyo, because the tight ends definitely had a good day today. That's a big takeaway to take away from this day is the tight ends. Although the wide receivers would have liked to have been more productive, the tight ends were definitely productive in this one. All of those guys made plays, and certainly Khalil Brantley might be a little bit of a surprise, and definitely with his big catches, he was. He caught the 26-yarder, followed it up immediately with the 11-yarder, I think. But Dominic Mammarelli was a guy who surprised and stood out, and you only noticed him if you watched until the end of the game, and if you watched the very last play of the game, he came down with the biggest play of the day, a 28-yard catch from walk-on quarterback Aaron Howard, and that's only for the people that watched till the very end. And if you missed it, that's why you're here, because in case you missed anything, I'm here to tell you what exactly happened. So a good play by him. He did very well on the day. He also had another good catch, but a little bit of a surprise because he's known a little bit more for being a blocking type guy, but certainly a good performance by him. So he did well. He surprised. Another surprise to take, I think into the off season and this is on the offensive line, and that's Jalen Rivers. Not that he performed out here, and he was a little unsure if you paid attention. I did ask him, was he going to participate in the spring game? And he was unsure if he was, because he's a guy who's been limited. He's gotten some reps. He wasn't quite full ready to go when I asked him, but he performed, and that's not the surprise. The surprise is he's been primarily working at left and right guard throughout the spring. Today, second team left tackle. Now, he was a highly regarded recruit out of Jacksonville area, and some people thought he would be a tackle, but he's primarily been a guard at Miami. But today, I think you should definitely keep that in mind, that he could play tackle at this level. I definitely think it's something to pay attention moving forward, because I believe Jalen's got a real shot at being Miami's best offensive lineman, and that's saying if he was at guard. However, if he has position flexibility to be a legitimate tackle, I find that to be very interesting based on who they have at tackle right now, with DJ Scaife starting at right tackle, Zion Nelson at left tackle. If Jalen can have a strong summer into fall camp, can he really legitimately be a tackle on that first unit, or will he slide back into the guard spots? I think the offensive line is not settled, even though they've got a lot of returners. But I think because you're looking at Rivers maybe as a tackle, then maybe things can get shook up a little bit. And I think it's important that all of those guys have good off seasons, have good summers. On that first unit, a guy that I don't mention too often, but Justice Oluwaseun was a guy that got that first team start there at guard, with Rivers slotted in the second team unit there. So a few more takeaways. I do think it was disappointing that the stadium was not full like UM anticipated being. So that was definitely disappointing. A good atmosphere, and shout out to everybody who did come to the game. And for those that couldn't make it, hopefully you were able to watch it on TV as it was televised live. But definitely disappointing, because I definitely think it could have been a great atmosphere. I know all the players wanted a lot of fans to be at the game. They thought it was important, and it certainly sounded like it would. Miami distributed 22,000 tickets for this 19,000 seat stadium. And the reason why they did that is because they were expecting about a 70% return of people that would actually show up, the ones that claimed tickets. And certainly those figures were miscalculated, because if I were to guess, and I was asking other media members in the press box, how many people do you think were here? And if I had to guess, it was definitely felt like less than half full. I think 8,000 is a rough estimate today. Certainly much lower than the 19 or 22,000 they anticipated. Although it was a good atmosphere, Coach Cristobal did mention that he was excited. He really thought the venue was great, so he was glad to have it here. And I do think this, maybe in years down the road, maybe they'll come back here, or maybe this can be a real venue for the spring game moving forward. But definitely, they've got to play well. They've got to gain even more interest. And I think UM should take a look at that, because maybe there's some things that they can do to create more interest in this team for people to actually want to show up for these kind of events. So just lastly, I want to thank everybody for watching all of the videos throughout the spring, these ones where I talk, or especially watching the drills, any videos that have been added to the channel over the past month or so. And if you're new to the channel, subscribing, I thank you for doing that. All the longtime supporters, I always appreciate you as well. But I want to tell you, there's definitely going to be plans moving forward with the channel. I want to create more videos in the off season. I am not going away for the next 3 months until fall camp. So definitely stay tuned. Interviews, all kinds of stuff. Recruiting is going to heat up as spring football starts at the high school level down here. Hopefully I can get out to some practices very soon. But definitely stay locked into the channel. I want to thank everybody again for watching. And definitely, if you have any ideas, definitely drop those in below. Thanks again for all your support. Hopefully you have a good day, and take care.